Some people say that we women cannot fall in love. But what should I do? Sometimes I really can't control it. This may be the mystery to the authorities. When I learned that my husband had a late stage of hepatitis, she was afraid of dragging me down and jumping into the river. I can't swim, but I jumped down to save him. In order to arouse his desire to survive, I told him about winning the lottery. He pretended to struggle, but pressed me under the water. I'm afraid I will die if I drown. He turned around and used my money to immigrate abroad with his first love. It turned out that he wanted to fake death to get rid of me. I opened my eyes and went back to the day my husband jumped into the river. Want to die, right? Then I will give you a ride. The noisy sound made me feel like I was a different world. I looked down and saw that the river water had already reached my knees. Haven't I been drowned? Why are you back here? Did I encounter all the good things like rebirth? I looked at the figure floating towards the middle of the river, my eyes were deep. Jo Chuheo, I will not sacrifice myself to save you this time. You can't even take away any more money from me. As soon as I loosened my hand, the bamboo pole in my hand floated away. I pretended to be panicked and shouted, "Come on. Help. I can't swim. Who will save my husband?" Jo Chuheo struggled in the water, but he could always keep his chest exposed above the water. How could this look like a drowning person? Although the in-laws on the shore also shouted for help and advised me to go back to the shore, their expressions were very calm. This scene made me understand how stupid I was in my previous life. It turned out that their family knew to stop me from saving people, not because they were worried about my safety, but because they were afraid that I would destroy Jo Chuheo's plan to die. At the moment before I died, I was relieved to save my husband's life. But unexpectedly, the man turned around and went abroad to settle down with his first love. Jo Chuheo was soon rescued by several passers-by who were brave and sent to the hospital. The rescue doctor said it was amazing, and the person who jumped into the river to commit suicide did not choke. The parents-in-law pretended to thank their ancestors for their blessings, saying that their son should not die. I sneered in my heart and asked the doctor with a pretentious concern, "Doctor, my husband is already in the late stage of hepatitis. Will it affect his condition if he falls into the water? Is it safer to do a more detailed examination?" My parents-in-law became anxious when they heard this and quickly stopped me. I feel like a mirror in my heart. What is the excuse of late hepatitis? I just want to jump into the river and pretend to die. Fortunately, I was so naive in my previous life and told Jo Chuheo the good news that I won the 100 million prize. I originally thought that with this money, I could achieve financial freedom and live the life I like. Unexpectedly, reality gave me a heavy hammer. Isn't this sending myself to the dead end? As soon as Jo Chuheo was sent to the ward, a doctor came immediately. It was the doctor in the emergency room, wearing a mask, with concern and no concealment. I was anxious to look through the case card, which made me suspicious. He also bent down and held Jo Chuheo's hand, his familiar eyebrows and eyes. When I was wandering my soul, I saw the doctor in the emergency room. "Bing Bing, Chuhao is nothing serious." A blurted-out sentence confirmed my guess. Li Bing was Jo Chuheo's first love. The two had been dating for 6 years before they separated. "Mom, are you very familiar with each other?" I asked suddenly. My mother-in-law was so guilty that she didn't dare to look at me. Only then did Li Bing realize that I was also slipping on his hand, pretending to take Jo Chuheo's pulse. I almost laughed out loud. "Isn't it Western medicine? Why did you still take your pulse?" My father-in-law pretended to be calm and said, "Bing Bing is Chuhao's attending doctor, we are quite familiar with it." He was so familiar that he didn't even call him Dr. Li, so he actually called him his name. But my mother-in-law took the opportunity to criticize me and said that I didn't care enough about Jo Chuheo. It was because I didn't take good care of Jo Chuheo that he got cancer. I looked humbly accepting criticism and expressed my positive attitude. "Mom, what you taught me is that I decided to transfer Chuhao to a large hospital in Beijing. At worst, I would have a liver transplant. Anyway, I wouldn't let Chuhao die." When the others in the ward heard this, their eyes changed. "Isn't it pretending to be cancer? Then I will cut your liver first and let you suffer slowly." My mother-in-law pulled my sign language seriously. "Lily, I feel relieved that you can recognize your mistakes, but since the doctors say that Chuhao is in the late stage, we should let him leave, so be more dignified." My father-in-law snorted coldly. "Do you understand the sarcastic thing, or do the doctor understand it? What are you messing around?" I tried hard to squeeze out 2 tears, "But Dad, Chuhao is still so young, am I afraid that he will be a short-lived ghost? I have contacted the experts in Beijing and have a suitable liver source." As long as I transfer to the hospital, I will be fine. Can arrange a liver transplant. I can't stand Chu Hao leaving me so young. I made up Li Bing just to scare them. Sure enough, Li Bing was shocked and burst out and said, okay. My parents-in-law also strongly opposed me and slandered Li Bing. I said, what's wrong with you, a doctor? I've never seen a doctor stop a patient from treating the disease, or is there something wrong with your diagnosis? Li Bing's eyes flashed slightly, and he insisted that he could not misdiagnose. My mother-in-law even scolded me in anger and said, I'm deliberately trying to kill his son. I have to take a plane to go to the capital. I'm so troubled on the road, so I'm afraid that my baby son will crash. My father-in-law even stopped me at the door and refused to let me take Chu Hao to the capital. I took out my cell phone and looked cold, threatening, it's okay not to go to the capital, so I'll invite an expert to come for consultation. I don't believe that Chu Hao is helpless. Li Bing became even more panicked when he heard the word consultation. The mother-in-law coughed lightly, winked at him, pretending to compromise. Since Lily has contacted the expert, then do it like this. Lily, you go home and rest first, your dad and I will wait for the nursing staff to come. Walk. They obviously wanted to send me away. I nodded. He left the ward with a pretense of worry. After leaving the hospital, I immediately disguised myself as I went to receive the award. I received a bonus of 100 million. I won't let anyone know anymore. I hid the money, didn't buy anything immediately, and turned around and sold the car. When I got home, I found that the balance in the card that Zhou Chuhao and I agreed not to move was zero. After marriage, we transfer some money from our respective salary every month to use it as a small treasury for our family and an educational fund for our future children. This dogman actually secretly withdrew the money with me on his back. I had a bad premonition, so I immediately called a few times and asked my friend to help me investigate some things. I was lying on the bed and tossing and turning. Zhou Chuhao, this scumbag originally planned to pretend to die and go away with Li Bin, so he must have made complete preparations long ago. Fortunately, the house and car are all in my name. It is unlikely that he wants to bypass me and sell it. It is worthwhile to change it into cash, but the uneasiness in my heart cannot be removed. I just fell asleep in a daze, but my phone kept vibrating. At 3 o'clock in the morning, Li Bin's painful voice came from the other end of the phone. Miss He, your husband, Mr. Zhou Chuhao, suddenly deteriorated. After we tried our best to rescue him, he still passed away. Say sad. I pretended to be shocked and said in a crying voice, what? Why is this happening? I'll hurry over. After hanging up the phone, I couldn't hold back the corners of my mouth. I died quite quickly. It won't make you feel so comfortable. I took something from the drawer and rushed to the hospital. In the ward, Zhou Chuhao had already covered it with white cloth. I lifted the white cloth and took a look. His face was peaceful. This was probably the best-looking liver cancer patient I have ever seen. Don't other patients all have a pale face and are very thin? I slapped him twice without warning. Zhou Chuhao didn't move at all. It seemed that he had to use some strength. My mother-in-law was about to come and pull me, but I rushed to Zhou Chuhao. Zhou Chuhao, you, a heartless person, how could you leave me like this? I wailed and took the opportunity to find out the truth. The body is warm and the heartbeat is beating, which confirms my guess. My mother-in-law pretended to pull me up. Lily, people cannot be resurrected by death, so we still have to look forward. My father-in-law also took a document to me. This is a will made by Chu Hao, you are his only heir. I wiped the tears that did not exist in the corner of my eyes, straightened up, looked at the document, and looked sarcastic. Just let it go, they just pretended to die, but they even prepared the will. There is something wrong with it. I took the will and read it with a glance. Miss He Lily will also repay my debts before my life. I sneered and pointed to the line. What does this mean? The father-in-law snorted coldly and muttered disdainfully. Since you have enjoyed everything that Zhou Chuhao has left behind, you will naturally have to bear Zhou Chuhao's debt. So I'm waiting for me here. The family's small treasury was emptied and kept it from me. This bastard must have something else to hide from me. I temporarily suppress my anger. The card that Chu Hao brought, Chu Hao applied for organ donation, and I have notified the staff of the donation center to come. My parents-in-law and Li Bin were so scared that their faces were bloodless. My mother-in-law was so angry that she wanted to hit me, but I cleverly avoided her. My father-in-law cursed and said that I would not leave a complete body for his son, and that he was vicious. Li Bin stammered for a long time before finding an excuse, but Mr. Zhou Chuhao's cancer cells have spread and metastasized, and I'm afraid other organs are not very good. I sighed, I asked, and I said it's okay and it's useful. We should respect Chu Hao's last wish. Am I not Zhou Chuheo's only heir? Is there anything wrong with this little thing? The expressions of these people are really wonderful. Li Bin was now like he was being put on a stove and was in a dilemma. He suddenly turned around and poured water for us. I noticed that there were 2 cups placed very close, so he handed them to my parents-in-law and gave them to me separately. I was about to take a sip when I caught a glimpse of the slight powder on the cup. Just then, the donation center people came. His parents-in-law were making trouble and forcing each other to die, and Li Bin also persuaded him. Because the immediate family strongly opposed it, even if the deceased had an application record before his death, the donation center would not force it. My father-in-law glared at me, "Old woman, hurry up," and urged Jiangzi, "Why haven't the car come yet? We want to take my son back to our hometown. The plan is so meticulous, I want to go far away." I think so well. I pretended to be surprised and asked, "Are you going to bury Chu Hao? It takes 7 or 8 hours to drive back to your hometown? Then you have to book a funeral service. Just use a professional refrigerated truck like a funeral home, right?" The parents-in-law looked at each other with guilt and did not dare to answer the conversation. I pretended to be obedient. I also want to notify all relatives in my hometown to come and pay tribute to Chu Hao and send him the last journey. Isn't the custom of keeping the soul for 3 days? In full view of everyone, I see how you can ensure that Chu Hao's anesthetic effect. If I could see him buried alive with my own eyes, it would be awesome. My father-in-law was so anxious that he was sweating and said incoherently, "We are not such feudal old men. We don't have to do the same thing, just want Chu Hao to return to his roots and be in peace." I almost laughed out loud. Isn't it feudal? Why are you talking about burials with me? Li Bin held his mother-in-law's hand and hinted with his eyes. "Auntie, now we advocate keeping funerals simple. Why not cremate? It's the same for taking the ashes back for burial. I'll contact the funeral home now." When my mother-in-law heard him say this, she knew there were other remedies and she became calm in an instant. Could this mistress have some bad ideas? While they were not paying attention, I tampered with the water in a few cups. "My mom and dad, let's drink some water first." My parents-in-law drank the glass of water that Li Bin specially prepared for me. I don't know what was added to it, and they quickly started to feel dizzy and confused. When Li Bin came back, he was stunned when he saw this scene. I didn't give him any time to hesitate. "Dr. Li, my parents don't know what's wrong. Please take them to have an examination. I'll take my husband to the funeral home. I just took Zhou Chuheo's death certificate from my mother-in-law. Don't you burn him to death with this?" Li Bin's face turned pale and said stumbledly, "I am more familiar with the process of the funeral home." Before he could finish his words, I said sternly, "Dr. Li, the procedures at the funeral home must be handled by immediate relatives. Who are you, Zhou Chuheo? Did you issue the death certificate?" Li Bin was speechless at me. Under my gaze, his expression was extremely guilty. What position does a mistress have to sign and complete the procedures? I'm gonna be. I didn't delay for a moment and got in the car with the funeral home staff. When the car passed the speed bump, I noticed Zhou Chuheo's brows frowned. "It's broken, isn't this guy going to wake up?" At this time, my parents-in-law began to call me one after another. I didn't answer my mother-in-law's text message, so I immediately sent it. "He Lily, if you dare to cremate my son, I will never end up with you. He Lily, we are on our way to the funeral home. Let's talk about everything when we arrive." The exclamation marks on the screen were everywhere. Are you going crazy? How can they destroy the opportunity that they finally waited for? I knocked on the window and pleaded with the staff sitting in front. "Master, our old man can't stand the blow," and sent him to rescue him. "I will go to your unit to complete the procedures and rush back to the hospital." The staff was reasonable and immediately let me sit firmly and step on the accelerator to the end. I looked at Zhou Chuheo's face and felt mixed feelings. Money was exchanged for me with my heart, but it was your betrayal. You not only felt sorry for my feelings, but also wanted to kill you for money. This time I am no longer ruthless to you, and I want to send you my way myself. The driver arrived in just 20 minutes after the trip for half an hour. It's a coincidence that there were not many people in the funeral home, so I quickly completed the procedures and sent Zhou Chuheo to the cremation workshop. The phone was as shocked as crazy. My father-in-law finished calling, my mother-in-law called, and a strange number kept calling. I turned off the phone expressionlessly. When they could no longer contact me, I wondered if it was my illusion, but it seemed that I could see Zhou Chuheo's fingertips move. I was so anxious that my nose was sweating. I was about to take revenge successfully. I must not make a bad thing at this critical moment. "Master, our old man has been watching the time and is anxious to bring his ashes back to his hometown for burial. Do you think you can be more comfortable?" I sincerely asked. The staff agreed and said that in the face of human nature and worldly affairs, the other families also expressed their understanding and sent Jo Choo-heo to the lineup. I prayed silently in my heart, hurry up, hurry up. The staff pushed Jo Choo-heo to the incinerator and suddenly wondered, hey, this body is quite warm. I have never seen such a situation. I won't find anything, right? I saw a glimpse of the few people running wildly in the distance. Isn't it my in-laws and Lee Bin? It's so fast. I was afraid that I would fail. I was so busy that the hospital had issued a death certificate, and the procedures were complete. If I could not make any mistakes, don't worry. The staff nodded and pushed Jo Choo-heo in. A messy footsteps were getting closer and closer. The moment the incineration switch was pressed, my mother-in-law's heart-wrenching shout came, wait a minute. Unfortunately, they were still one step late. Jo Choo-heo was surrounded by the fire, and he even raised his hands high in the fire. When my mother-in-law saw this scene, she screamed and fainted on the spot. The father-in-law and Lee Bin were holding her in a hurry, and the scene was chaotic. Lee Bin pinched the person and gave her mother-in-law a happy chest. My mother-in-law opened her eyes and cried and scolded me, murderer. You are the murderer who killed my son. As soon as these words came out, everyone around him came over, and some people took out their mobile phones to take videos. I looked innocent, Mom, I know you are very sad, but you can't talk nonsense. Choo-hao's advanced liver cancer suddenly worsened. Isn't Dr. Lee his attending doctor? Even the death certificate was prescribed by Dr. Lee. But is Lee Bin, a provincial doctor, still fake? Knowing that someone was photographing me, I deliberately told Lee Bin's full name and work unit, and everyone's eyes were turned to Lee Bin. His unreasonable appearance made me feel that my breasts were unobstructed. You guys and women have taken away money in their past and present lives, and finally they have evil intentions and killed me. Now they are really self-inflicted. The mother-in-law grabbed Lee Bin's arm hard, as if she had grabbed a life-saving straw. Bing bing, tell everyone quickly that Choo-hao has no cancer at all, and the death certificate is also fake. Let's sue He Lily together, he is the one who killed Choo-hao. The murderer. Lee Bin's face turned blue and pale, and he didn't dare to answer the conversation. I watched coldly, but my heart was filled with joy. My father-in-law was so angry that he stamped his feet, pointing at my nose and cursing, you woman is so cruel. You are burning my son to death. I directly directed the firepower to Lee Bin, Dad, if what you said is true, then you should call the police and arrest Dr. Lee. Aren't he the procedures handled? When Choo-hao died, it wasn't you guys who were you. Are you with him? If he is not dead, why do you need to contact the funeral home? My series of rhetorical questions successfully blocked their mouths. This time I want you to taste the feeling of shooting yourself in the foot. The onlookers also nodded and said yes. Everyone said that the old man might have been sent to the black-haired man, which was too sad, so he was mentally abnormal. But my mother-in-law doesn't care about so much. Her son is dead, how can I not be anxious? She pulled Lee Bin's clothes, you are talking, you're mute? You show it out to prove that He Lily didn't burn my son to death. That's a living person. My mother-in-law sat on the ground and cried, and even her father-in-law, who had always been strong, was wiping her tears. Lee Bin didn't say a word. I lowered my eyes to hide the pride in my eyes. I know this woman will never recognize her if she beat her to death. The staff also came out to speak out for me to prove that the cremated corpse is legal and compliant. But my mother-in-law was crazy and pressed Lee Bin to the ground and beat him, it's all your fault. You vixen, you are going to seduce my son after divorce, and insist on divorcing my son, and go abroad with you. If it weren't for your bad idea, my son would you need to pretend to be dead? If he pretends to be dead, he will not be a real act. Wow. Now that others are gone, you are pretending to be mute for me. I tell you, you are also a murderer, so don't try to separate yourself from each other. Lee Bin's clothes were torn to pieces and his face was also scratched. In front of a fierce rural woman like her mother-in-law, he is no match for her at all. How could I let go of such a great opportunity? In full view of everyone, I looked shocked. Mom, are you saying true? What kind of relationship is Dr. Lee and Jo Choo-heo? Choo-hao cheated? The mother-in-law realized that she had missed her mouth and was very upset. He said happily, Choo-hao is gone, what's the point of talking about these things? Stop messing around, even if you die, you want to turn the article in a light sentence? No way. I seemed to have reacted and cried sadly, you said that Choo-hao didn't get cancer at all. He deliberately pretended to die just to stay together with Dr. Lee? No wonder he jumped into the river and acted as a late stage of cancer. He admitted that he cheated. Yes, I won't disagree with the divorce, there is no need to do it like this. Just as the camera was aimed at me, I suddenly said, no wonder he wanted to make a special will, let me be the only heir, and asked me to help him pay off his debt. I analyzed it out loud and stopped just right. The onlookers were not fools, and they soon understood that the personnel relationship of this family was clear. Outside the cremation workshop, everyone surrounded them and cursed, this family is too immoral. My son cheated and owed a lot of debts, and he wanted to pretend to be dead and escape. It's so vicious. The mistress is actually a doctor. Damn, this trick of fake death is in TV series. Don't dare to act like this. Oh my god, who dares to go to see him in the future? Such a person has done so many unethical things and is so embarrassed to sue his daughter-in-law. This is called making a mistake and not living. It's worth it. They are considered organized. Are you committing a crime? These people are playing with it, they are really doing fakes, and they want their daughter-in-law to take the blame. It's so disgusting. No matter how I spoke, the melon-eating crowd could drown several of them. The clinic was afraid that the incident would explode and called the police. Before Jo Chuheo could burn to ashes, the farce outside had already become a hot search. We cooperated with the police station to investigate. I repeatedly emphasized, every time he checked, he was handled by Lee Bin. Why didn't my wife accompany me once? Our chat record is evidence. You don't have to accompany me. I hope you can face it alone so that you won't even be a doctor. I can't understand the words. I hid the inspection report, but I just don't want you to see it affect your mood. Look at my devil husband, so considerate. With the police's inquiry, my parents-in-law quickly got all of them. Jo Chuheo died, and they had no hope. They could not make it difficult for Lee Bin to cover up. Drama scenes were staged. Two old guys turned around and said, Comrade Police, Lee Bin is the mastermind. It's just the bad idea that this bad guy came up with, otherwise my son wouldn't have died so badly. Yes, it's all caused by him. Comrade Police, please hurry up and get him arrested. I asked back, you don't even want your son's life? I heard my parents-in-law yelling through the door, and I felt much more relaxed. Fong immediately asked the hospital to cooperate with the investigation and find relevant evidence. Jo Chuheo does not have a complete medical record, and even the examination report used to fool me was used to cover up something with other symptoms. The media and netizens are too concerned, and the hospital will never dare to cover up. Lee Bin was seriously dereliction of duty and was detained for suspected manslaughter. But my parents-in-law insisted that he had Alzheimer's disease. His knowledge was completely deceived by Lee Bin and he was not held accountable. I thought this matter could be over, but I didn't expect it to be blocked at the door of my house. Jo Chuheo loaned us 5 million. When will you pay back this money? Don't just think he's dead. Seeing the fierce and evil people, they were posing as if they were going to beat people if they didn't pay back the money. They just smashed the door and the neighbors were alarmed. I won't panic if someone is present. After calming down, I asked the other party, why did Jo Chuheo lend so much money with his qualifications? The other party looked at my house with his head and was using this house as collateral. Now I'm even more calm. If you think I have the responsibility to repay the debt, I will sue me, but I will say it first. It was the accident that happened to me. You are the first suspect. Come on the open and honest, I am not afraid of them, just fearing them. Playing with silly. The house is my own property, not Jo Chuheo's name at all, and the loan collection accounts are also owned by Jo Chuheo, and they have nothing to do with me. I threatened by calling the police and finally drove the people away. I made a special will, and I was the only heir, and they were waiting for me here. Otherwise, with the face of his parents-in-law, Jo Chuheo had just died, and they would come to fight for houses and inheritance with me. It seems that they have known that the house has been mortgaged and that they have a loan, so no wonder they don't say anything. The next day, I received a notice from the court that he really went to sue. The evidence collected by my friend for me played a key role. I was unaware of the loan from beginning to end, and the mortgaged property owner did not match the lender. After all, the loan procedures are illegal and not compliant. I also provided favorable evidence to prove that the loan card is currently in the hands of Jo Chuheo's parents, and they also used the card to withdraw money and spend money. I took some time to finally separate the debts left by Jo Chuheo from me, but I will never let his unscrupulous parents be free and easy. The investigation results I got showed that Jo Chuheo pretended to die to open a company abroad. He illegally raised funds under this name and cheated all his relatives and friends around him. If the matter is exposed at this time, the Jo family will be busy. I specially changed my mobile phone card and sent a group notification to everyone about Jo Chuheo's death. It took 2 days before I appeared at the Joe family. Before I entered the door, I heard a quarrel inside. "Your son is dead, what company is there? Hurry up and return the money I gave you." It sounds nice to say at that time. It turned out that I planned to pretend to be dead and escape abroad. I don't know if your son has committed something and is going to escape for fear of his crime. Fortunately, his son died, otherwise our money would have been wasted. Refund the money quickly, otherwise you will move your family's things first to pay off the debt. That's right, I took the TV away, you guys take something else. I stood at the door, looking at the scene of a mess inside, feeling indescribable. No matter how powerful they are in fairness, they are outnumbered, and not to mention that they are in the wrong, no one sympathizes with this time. They just experienced the pain of losing their son. My mother-in-law found out that I was back and trotted and pulled me into the door. She said, "He is my daughter-in-law, what's the matter? You go to him. How can we old people know about fundraising?" I didn't know when I first received these bad money. I said, "I'm fine now. If something happens, I want me to take the blame?" I think so beautifully. I took out my cell phone calmly and opened a certain web page. Everyone can see clearly that the legal person registered by Zhou Chuheo is his parents, shareholders, and Li Bin. It is his mistress. I don't know about this company. I have a debt. If you have a master, you can call the police. They are illegally raising funds and are going to jail. As soon as he finished speaking, his in-law's face turned pale. In the crowd, someone said, "Before calling the police to get the money back, let's get something to pay off the debt." Everyone, do it. I left the door and watched everyone snatch the money Zhou Chuheo brought coldly. I guess it has also cost a lot. The appliances and furniture at home have been replaced with new ones. Many small appliances have never seen before. Now, they have been stolen. When my parents-in-law had a dispute with those people, they would not be their opponents. Some neighbors were watching the fun, so I sighed from the side. Alas, they helped Zhou Chuheo hide the cheating incident and planned to go abroad together to pretend to be dead. I thought I was the only one who was unlucky, but I didn't expect that they would even raise funds illegally. After this incident, I told the Zhou family about these scandals, and the neighbors also came to war. My parents-in-law fell to the ground while pushing and shoving, and my father-in-law also had high blood pressure, but no one cared about their life or death. Seeing that the things were almost divided, I took out Zhou Chuheo's will, too. "This is your son's will, do you remember it? It clearly states that I am the only heir. This house was originally under Zhou Chuheo's name, now I have inherited it legally, please move out today." Those people looked shocked and didn't know what to do. When I faced them, my smile was bright. "Don't worry, everyone, these things are from the Zhou family, don't worry, I don't care about them, I don't care about them, I don't want them. I don't want them. I don't care about these 3 melons and 2 dates. What I want is to make this 2 old guys drove them away and left them homeless." The parents-in-law was so angry that they trembled. "He Lily, you are going to kill all of you like this, aren't you afraid that Chu Hao will come to you to take your life?" "Take a life?" I sneered, "I'm here to come back to find your whole family to take their lives. Didn't you borrow 5 million on mine? It shouldn't be difficult to refund everyone's fundraising funds, right? Stop pretending, refund the money. Bar." I deliberately mentioned the online loan matter and successfully pushed the hatred value of those people to the highest level. They immediately forced their in-laws to hand over the money. My parents-in-law didn't let go, and others were so angry that they beat them up. Looking at the 2 old people with a bruised nose and swollen face, I called a few people and they quickly carried their in-laws downstairs and cleared their things. I also called a locksmith and replaced all the locks at home in the future. Thinking of Zhou Chuheo coaxing me to spend money on these 2 old guys, I made a few more calls, and all senior members of the sanatorium and health club were cancelled. I even sealed their last retreat. My parents-in-law shouted in the community, calling me unfilial, and they married me and fell into trouble for 8 lifetimes. No matter how much they shouted, no one felt sorry for them, and many neighbors even cursed them when they passed by. The people's eyes are sharp, and everyone has long learned about the Zhou family's destruction of people's views on the internet. The property security guard soon came to drive people away and prevented them from staying in the community, saying that their things had occupied the road. Just then, the police arrived. My parents-in-law are suspected of illegal fundraising and are detained. The evidence is conclusive this time and I can't escape it. I was relieved to watch them be taken away by the police car on the balcony. In recent years, Zhou Chuheo has moved a lot of money from the small treasury of our small family to subsidize the family, and the amount is far more than normal alimony. I have read the chat records between the mother and son. My mother-in-law has been brainwashing Jo Chuheo and said to him, "My wife is always an outsider, and you make more money than Jo Chuheo. You must be careful of me, otherwise I will fall in love with someone else. Otherwise, the money would be cheaper for other men." Jo Chuheo, this scumbag, was gradually drifting away from me under his silence. Their whole family has plotted against me for so many years, but they ended up in a family that was destroyed, but it was just a consequence of their own fault. There is also Lee Bin, I can't let go of it easily. Because the planner participated in Jo Chuheo's fake death, he had been fired by the hospital. The matter has been formally investigated and is scheduled to be heard. He received the punishment he deserves, but for me, it is not enough. I pulled out their chat and transaction records from Jo Chuheo's mobile phone, and looked at the stingy content, as well as unbearable photos and videos, and I felt sick. Unexpectedly, over the years, Jo Chuheo transferred money to Lee Bin every holiday, and usually ordered takeout and flowers for him. He looked honest and considerate in front of me. Who would have thought that he was a time management master? He was just a time to accompany me to do a manicure, and he could actually use the excuse to buy milk tea and run to open an hourly room with Lee Bin. This pair of dogs and women is so disgusting. I handed over the evidence I collected to the lawyer and formally sued Lee Bin. Even if Jo Chuheo is dead, it is a fact that he cheated during his marriage during his lifetime. I didn't expect that Lee Bin would have the face to ask to see me. In the detention center, the haggard Lee Bin and my carefully dressed up form a sharp contrast. He said, "Why are Chuhao leaving? Is it point to sue me?" I looked down at the manicure I had just done. He thought casually, "Jo Chuheo is too dirty, and it doesn't matter if he dies. But the money he spent on you is my legal income. You took my money and wanted to write it off, and this abacus was too loud." Lee Bin looked at me in surprise, with anger. "This is your true face. You are just a woman who recognizes money but not people. No wonder Chuhao only loves me, and you only have money left. It's so sad." I put away my lazy posture and sat upright. What can be happier in this world than making a fortune? How much money do you call love worth? I didn't want to be sentenced to a few more years, so I honestly returned my money. This mistress is about to die and is still showing off her power with me. It would be strange if I can endure it. I provided clues to self-media and public accounts, and promoted Lee Bin's extramarital affair, forged death, and illegal fundraising. Even the official media's rule of law programs have been reported, and he has become a household name. Who says the internet has no memory? I just nailed this pair of dogs and men firmly to the pillar of shame. Not only did they have to return the victim's money, they also had to be fined 200,000 yuan. Not only that, they also faced 5 years of prison. For the 5 million yuan of online loans, they found an agent, bought a house abroad, and happily paid the down payment. Unexpectedly, they met a scammer and lost all their money. The high-interest loan still had to be repaid. It is said that these two old people cried bitterly in court and knelt down and begged for mercy. The lender only agreed to repay them in installments, and the principal would not be reduced. Lee Bin was not much better either. The amount of manslaughter and illegal fundraising was huge, and the social impact was bad. He was sentenced to 30 years and his marriage qualification was also disqualified. He would never be able to be a doctor in his life. Jo Chuheo cheated on Lee Bin during his marriage, and the money was recovered and sentenced to death. He was really self-inflicted. After I got rid of this pile of bad people, I started to turn my luck. Who said that the house I was detained was actually within the scope of the government's demolition and renovation? A generous demolition payment was added to my already thick small treasury. I simply quit and took my parents around the world. When I met my favorite places, I would travel directly to experience the lives of the locals. I no longer have to be a cow or a horse, nor do I have to deal with other parents-in-law. After traveling outside for 2 or 3 years, I also met my happy partner for the rest of my life. My parents are old, so we all returned to this city. I opened a living restaurant that combines coffee shops and flower shops. It's so wonderful to be able to make money with my own interests. One day, I was arranging flowers in the store and heard a noise outside. Standing in front of the window and looking up, 2 ragged old men were driven away. They were staggering, holding empty bottles and paper in their hands. Looking closely, aren't these 2 old people in the Zhou family? They probably are still worried about paying off their monthly loans. I picked up the cup and took a sip of coffee. It's great that evil people will receive them. The full text is over.